Nice. Okay. So I just.
Hey, good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
See?
Morning.
Oh, hold on. I think he just left.
I think you can take the lead, Nicholas, as to when we start.
Okay, I think we can start. I just saw Mr. Nisi coming again.
Yes.
So I think we can start. So maybe Mr. Nisi first.
Okay, thank you very much, Nicholas, and good morning to everyone. My name is Sibusiso Mnisi. I hope you can hear me very well.
Yes, we can hear you well.
Very clear.
All right.
Very clear.
No, that's great. No, thank you very much. My name is Sibusiso Mnisi, Executive Manager at Trade Promotion and also Project Manager for the Eswatini International Trade Fair. So maybe let me start off by welcoming everyone. I'm not sure, Lianza, how many have joined already, but the last time we checked, we had received over 200 participants. So I hope they are able to join. So we welcome everyone who is joining this training, and we thank you all for making the time for coming through. But in particular, let me acknowledge the team from Taitra, Nicholas, for always allowing us to have this training once again. We had one last year, which was very, very successful. And I'm very pleased to note that Mr. Chien Lee, who is our facilitator today, was also able to interact with some of the participants from last year's engagement. So yeah, again, we are having this AI training really, as part of the many trainings that we're going to do or seminars for the Eswatini International Trade Fair. I'm sure most of you have seen that our theme this year is on accelerating business growth through digital transformation. So the issue of making sure that we are leveraging on new technologies is very, very key. And hence, once again, we said, let's have this one on AI, which is part of digital transformation. And as I've said, it's part of many seminars that we're going to have. I think Lianza, when concluding this seminar, will also highlight some of the seminars that we're going to have, as part of the trade fair program. So I guess on my side is just to say, guys, this is your platform. Make it interactive. And Mr. Chien Lee is no stranger to us. We have worked with him before, and he's going to take us through. And let's hope that we're going to have a very exciting and fruitful engagement. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. So then, on behalf of Taiwan External Trade Development Council, TETRA, I would like to present my thanks to Mr. Sibusiso Nisi, Mr. Sibusiso Dlamini, the Eswatini Investment and Trade Promotion Authority, IPA, and also especially Luenza, who has been a great contact and help us to ensure the success of this seminar. So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nicholas. It is a very great pleasure to host this seminar on AI technology. As we all know, AI technology has become one of the biggest trending themes of 2024. From ChatGPT to Google's Gemini, or Cloud AI, or even Apple's Siri, all have become the main trend in today's society. In the past, applications such as Siri, Google, Samsung's Bixby were used to provide some kind of helps, such as telling you the weather, setting the alarm, looking for a video on YouTube. With AI technology tools, we can now have travel plans. We can do cooking advices, meal plans, weight losing plans, or some of them, you can also chat with them with a very responsive way. And this proves that we are in a very special time of human existence where science fiction has started to become the present to help us progress, to make our lives easier, and want to help us improve our business models. Today, we have invited Mr. Chen Li, President of Spark Amplify. Mr. Li has been in Eswatini also last year during the trade exhibition. And he's a professional in public relations data decision, marketing in the field of European and American B2B, online and social media, and also customer relationship management data marketing. He has been helping many companies in managing the business. And so with no further time to waste, I present to you Mr. Chen Li.
Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you, all the officials, and thanks for welcoming me today again. Good morning, everyone at Eswatini. I am currently in Taiwan, Taipei, as we speak, and wishing I was there. But however, at the same time, you know, with all the new technologies, I think virtually online, we're just as close. Today, it's a special, you know, opportunity for me to continue our journey, which started last year. Last year, at the same time, I believe I was actually on stage. And however, at the same time, you know, this year we're going to continue that journey in exploring the potential of AI, as well as the outlook of e-commerce, especially for Eswatini. And so today we have two sessions planned, and both sessions are hopefully not only entertaining, but also educational. My goal is to hopefully be able to not only share with you guys some of the success stories that currently are happening as we speak here in Taiwan, but also at the same time, success stories globally as well. And so my name is Chen, last name is Li. I am the CEO, the founder, as well as the chief scientist at Spark Amplify. Before I begin, let me quickly introduce myself again. Nicholas, do you see me changing my slide?
Yes.
Perfectly. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I just want to double check that. Okay, so yes, and so like I said, I mean, I was born in Taiwan, and however, I was raised practically most of my life in the United States, and studied, educated, and also worked and so forth. And I was mainly in California, actually, in the Silicon Valley Bay Area, studying. You know, after graduating from Berkeley, I was helping many of the Fortune 500 companies in terms of management consulting. And then furthermore, coming back to Taiwan for the past about 15, 16 years, also helping not only here in Taiwan, but also Asia in terms of digital transformation, as well as the deployment of AI technologies and business solutions. And furthermore, currently I'm also doing a PhD at Tsinghua University, also on AI, especially focusing in on AI and human interactions. And so that's some of the stuff that we'll be talking about today. And furthermore, a lot of the information that you guys will be hearing today, I have had the opportunity to share not only here in Taiwan, but globally as well. You know, from the States, San Francisco, LA, New York, also parts of Asia like Japan, Singapore, Thailand, as well as Europe and UK, and furthermore, as onward as in Africa, such as Nigeria and Eswatini. So without you guys having to travel all around the world, you're able to, through the efforts of IPA and Tetra, to bring this knowledge to use to you guys right in front of your computer screen or maybe your phone. And so hopefully, as we take this journey down this this continuous learning, you will be able to learn a lot of this information today. And looking back, like I said, last year, it was actually September 7th when I was on the stage. And that was, to be honest, my first time in Africa, in the continent of Africa. And I have to be very, very honest with you, I had a great great time, not only meeting talents as well as government officials, but also at the same time, we had a very good dialogue in terms of digital transformation, in terms of digital marketing, as well as path forward for Eswatini to be a part of this role in the digital economy. And aside from that, I just want to share with you guys, as mentioned by the government official earlier today, just now, through that event, I was able to meet not only a lot of friends, but also very talented individuals. And in my second session today, I am actually going to share a case study, a specific case study that was a result of the event last year and meeting up with two talents. And furthermore, they had a passion of the goal was to empower local businesses and elevating communities. And through our countless meetings and efforts, they have reached a certain plateau in their milestone. And I just want to share in our second session. So definitely do hang around for the second session as well. I'll be sharing with you guys the case study, in terms of their progress of their business customer connect. And this will be to some extent also an example of Eswatini on the road to e-commerce success. So make sure to stick around for session 2 to be a part of to learn about this case study. Okay, and so today's agenda, we essentially have about 3 hours together. And of course, the lecture part will consist of 2 sessions. And for each session, the lecture part will be 1 hour. And then furthermore, we also want to leave about 20 minutes for Q&A, which I thought was the most valuable part last year's session where there was a lot of questions and also engagements and interactions. And so we'll leave about 20 minutes. And then furthermore, we'll have about 5-minute break between sessions. And so this way, if you guys need to run to the restroom, whatever, we'll have that time for you guys as well. And so in the session 1, the topic is from personalization to productivity. We'll be focusing in on how to harness AI potential for your global success, not only from a personal perspective, but also from a business perspective. And so I'll be taking this opportunity to first introduce, the generative AI movement, and also at the same time, as we look forward to the era of AI, what is our outlook in terms of the future of work? Looking at across business functions. So not only just marketing, but also other aspects of other business functions as well. And also, I want to make this talk interesting. So not only talking about the benefits, the advantages, the wow factor of AI, but something that currently right now in the market is not as discussed commonly, which is what are some of the constraints and limitations. So this is what I called it beyond the hype, right? So aside from all the wow factors that we currently see every day, in fact, about AI, what are some of the things that we need to keep mindful of as we are using and getting used to this technology and being a part of us in our daily lives? So that's going to be a very interesting session that hopefully you guys will also be learning about. And then in the second session, we'll be talking about boosting your e-commerce sales with social selling, not from some of the popular social media, but however, at the same time, how LinkedIn can turbo boost that in terms of social selling, but also how can you use LinkedIn to build your brand. And then lastly, like I said, the case study, it will be a very interesting case study because this case study will, in fact, be involved with Eswatini talents as well as businesses as well. Okay, so you guys will have a better feel for what that e-commerce process or journey looks like. Okay, so without further ado, I am going to start our first session. And to kick it off, we'll be looking at an introduction of AI and ChatGPT. So as we know, AI now is, to some extent, is also synonymous to ChatGPT to some extent. When we think about AI, we think about, for example, how we use ChatGPT. And that, to some extent, makes sense. And in fact, if we look at a quote by Sam Altman, which is the CEO of OpenAI, the creator of ChatGPT, at last year's OpenAI Dev Day, he mentioned that, so I just want to point out some key topics that he mentioned in his speech, which I think is very relevant in today's talk. He mentioned that AI, or he stated that AI is going to be a technological and societal revolution. And when we give people better tools, they can change the world. And so with AI is about individual empowerment. And furthermore, with AI, we'll be able to do more and create more. And lastly, just like how we all want to hopefully one day become a superhero, with AI, we have superpowers on demand. What that means is that with AI, we are able to, when we need it, we can turn on AI and have it help us with our everyday tasks. And furthermore, to be able to engage and allow us to hopefully spend less time on some of the mundane tasks, but furthermore, allow us to free us up for more time to do activities that really, really emphasizes on our value as a humanity in terms of creativity, in terms of the human and human interaction. And so in that sense, with AI, we're able to sort of like a light switch. When we need it, we can turn that on and then we can have those superpowers. But also at the same time, we still very cherish our time with family and friends, with humans and people and so forth. And then so in those type of situations, we can turn the superpower off. So this is what Sam Altman mentioned it last year, towards the end of last year in his Dev Day. And so I wanted to take that opportunity to share with you guys. And furthermore, ChatGPT has been on a rocket boosting ride in terms of their development. So about a month ago, 2 months ago, ChatGPT launched its newest model. And as we know, when ChatGPT was launched in 2022, November, which is almost coming up to about 2 years, it started out with its initial model of the ChatGPT 3 and 3.5, and then furthermore evolving it to 4 and so forth. And now the newest model, as we see here, is the ChatGPT 4.0. I'm not sure how many of you have used it, but if not, I definitely want to give you guys an idea of what they have in store. But I just want to give you a sense of what ChatGPT has done. These past year or two, couple of things. One, it is the fastest application to reach 1 million users within 5 days, which in the past, the fastest application before ChatGPT that reached 1 million user was Instagram and Spotify, which took them at least 40, 50, 60 days. Okay, so as you can see, ChatGPT was definitely an application that was highly anticipated. And furthermore, in terms of user now, it has almost over 160 million users worldwide. And furthermore, on a monthly access in terms of accessing their large language model, the access itself is, reaches over 1 billion. So that's pretty astounding, considering that, AI, artificial intelligence, to some extent has been around. It has been around since even the 1950s. And so with the cyclical, the ups and downs in the past, to be honest, there was a lot of hype and there was a lot of expectation on AI, especially back in the day. But at that time, the computing power wasn't ready. And furthermore, in terms of the results that it was reaching, it wasn't as astounding. And so by going through these valley and peaks, it has gone through transformations and transformation. Furthermore, however, this time it looks like it is here for real. And one of the reasons why is because Taiwan is one of the power, or the background supporter of this whole entire movement, especially with the technology, the hardware, the computing power, supporting, from the semiconductors from TSMC, as well as NVIDIA, AMD. Those are all the companies that have affiliations with Taiwan, and furthermore is powering this whole entire movement in terms of computing, enabling large language models such as ChatGPT to be able to almost act like human-like. And so I want to share with you what this feels like, with ChatGPT 4.0. And so let's see what are some of its capabilities. With ChatGPT 4.0, its capabilities expand outside of just text. So it is now reaching into a space that's multimodal, extending from text into voice, into image, into sound. And furthermore, being able to, by allowing to upload files, now you are able to engage with AI, not only just purely the conversational text, but you are able to provide supplemental text to support your interaction. And furthermore, instead of just text, you can communicate with voice. And lastly, which we all really care the most, is speed. Can it actually act in less time? And when we do the analysis, what way we see is that the ChatGPT 4.0 is actually twice as fast as their earliest or their previous fastest version, ChatGPT 4. And so since we are currently doing this, virtually, so I'm not able to play a video, but I'm just going to explain an example of this demo. So with ChatGPT 4.0, what can it do? It has recognitions almost human-like. So for example, in this example, where I was in my office, I took a picture of a very popular nutritional drink called Milo here in Taiwan, which actually I think it even has its presence in Eswatini as well. It's a global brand. So I took a picture of this drink, and so I use an image to interact with 4.0. I asked 4.0, what do you see in this image? And almost human-like, it was able to tell me, not only, from a brand perspective, from a product perspective, but also from a design perspective. It can tell me to the details of the design of, the green background of a basketball player slam dunking, and then furthermore, the slogans on the package. Almost just like a human, right? So when I show anything, like a design to a person, they are able to, through visual context, they're able to identify what this image is. Furthermore, I'm able to do that with 4.0. Now, once I'm able to capture that image and for ChatGPT 4.0 to be able to recognize it, the next thing I ask is, where can I buy something like this here in Taiwan? And so it was able to very clearly specify that something like this, you can buy it, through many convenience stores that's located all over here in Taiwan, offline. And online wise, you can buy it through, for example, Shopee and Rakuten, these e-commerce sites. So not only does it recognize images, it also has local insights and information. Thirdly, the next task I asked it to do was, based on the image that I showed you, can you help me customize the design? So think about this. In the past, when I have to do any design work, I would definitely need to obviously work with someone that has design capabilities, that can use Photoshop, and then furthermore through iterations to do changes and then create that perfect image. Now with ChatGPT 4.0, all I did was I asked ChatGPT to essentially replace, let's say, for example, the original package design was someone playing basketball. And I love basketball. However, I love tennis even more. So what I told it was, can you change the basketball player into a tennis player, right? And so in the past, like I said, I would need to work with a designer. They would need to pull up the file in Photoshop or Illustrator and then change that manually. Now with ChatGPT, it can actually do that based on my command, change the character from a basketball player to a tennis player instantly. And not only changing characters, but I can also change, as you see from my picture on the bottom right, it can actually change the style of the design from green to orange as well. And so lastly, translation. Communication, language has always been a barrier to commerce between countries, between nations, between cultures, so forth. Now with ChatGPT, the conversation that I had with ChatGPT was in English. Now, however, here in Taiwan, the main language is still Mandarin Taiwanese. And so what I did was I had ChatGPT to actually explain what I had it to do in Mandarin. And it was actually able to very, very clearly, succinctly, just like any Taiwanese, to be able to convey the new design aspect. And so what you see here is that with AI, with ChatGPT, not only does it have recognition capability, and not only does it have the capability of localized information, for example, where to buy, it can also help you customize from a design aspect. And lastly, to overcome language barriers, it can translate into almost any language you would like as a native individual person, speaker. So this is an example of ChatGPT 4.0. And if you guys do get a chance, I would definitely encourage you guys to also take a trial or a run at that process as I just shared with you, and you'll be amazed what AI can do. And then furthermore, ChatGPT is just one of many, many generative AI tools. As we know, generative AI, the mere definition of generative AI is essentially utilizing large language models, allowing the user to be able to communicate with AI, not the traditional way of programming. However, it's through our everyday conversational English or text. And the reason why we are able to communicate AI with just our conversation is because of the large language models, such as ChatGPT has developed, or maybe even Facebook, Llama, and so forth. And so what is essentially generative AI is utilizing these large language models to engage with users in their everyday language. And furthermore, the goal is to be able to generate or to output content, whether it be video, whether it be text, whether it be audio, whether it be, you name it, right? All these are things that can be generated using generative AI tools. So and so as you can see, not just ChatGPT, but there's plenty of these type of tools around. And furthermore, if you would like to do some research and if you don't find anything that you like, I always suggest that you guys can go on to this website. There's an AI for that, and you can do searches on potentially looking for the tools that's just perfect for you. And what is quite interesting is that we here at Spark Amplify, we've sort of taken that into another level. We utilize these tools and we help business professionals, or even school for that matter, to help them accomplish their tasks. So this is an example that we did with a lot of the tech entrepreneurs in Japan, in Tokyo, towards the end of last year. And one of the things that they, as entrepreneurs, what they need to do is they are always facing potential investors or individuals where they need to be able to present their business ideas. And then furthermore, their goal was to be able to do this, hopefully, in the US. And so what we did was we taught them how to use, let's say, tools to be able to do presentations, their decks, right? Their investor presentations. We helped them utilize AI tools to be able to practice their pitch, okay, using pitch tools, to sort of simulate the environment. And furthermore, once they're able to have a good pitch, obviously there's going to be people that are going to be hopefully wanting to arrange meetings. We even have tools for that, to utilize AI tools to help you facilitate the meeting process, acting as sort of the meeting assistant, being able to not only transcribe your meetings, but also summarize your meetings and also list out the follow-up action items, just like a human meeting assistant would do. And lastly, after that meeting, there would be a series of emails that we need to go back and forth. And in this situation, there's also an AI to help you do AI email companion, to help you correct, let's say, your grammar, to be able to track your emails, whether the person has replied or not, and maybe even in your reply responses. So imagine something like that, with the use of tools, business individuals, professionals, professors, things of that nature, we are able to, like what Sam Altman said, we almost have like an assistant that's always beside us 24/7, and that we can always turn on and turn off as we need it. And furthermore, not only do we work with businesses, we work with schools around the world, and also, some of the top schools here in Taiwan. And so that is important because as students, as college students enter the workforce, it is important, as I mentioned before, to understand and to be ready for the future of work. And then furthermore, to be able to know the tools, know how to use the tools to be able to better facilitate their executions when they get into the workforce. And lastly, AI not only transforms the workplace, but also in primary school students. I always believe that AI, to some extent, will have the biggest impact, not in our generation, but in the future generations ahead. Because by the time they're at our age, the people that they're working with potentially are humans, obviously, but they'll also be working with computers and AI and robots as well. So it is important for our students as well, primary students, to learn about how to explore AI technology, as well as exploring or unleashing their imaginations, such as creating videos, creating movies, creating sounds. Those are all things that we should definitely empower our next generation to prepare for the future. So ultimately, I think the goal is this. In any situation, we need to not only think about working hard, but I think that the topic to today's lecture is also about teaching everyone how to work smart at the same time. Okay, so that wraps up sort of the introduction to generative AI as well as ChatGPT, as we talked about. And so now we're going to venture into some of the real scenarios that professionals commonly face and across business functions. And so as we know, AI is transforming all industries, whether it be retail, whether it be fashion, whether it be gaming, healthcare, media, you name it. You are able to see footprints of AI working alongside of humans collaboratively to make humans more efficient. And so not only across industries, but also across business functions. So in this situation, within a business, we have many, many functions, starting, let's say, human resources, how companies are using AI to help them quickly filter out resumes, or even utilize AI to assist them in terms of job interviews. Those are all things that are currently already in place. Or maybe the finance department utilizing AI to identify potential risk in terms of debt or in terms of fraud detection. These are all things that currently already in place as well. And research development or IT, programming in the past have always been done purely by humans. Now with AI, not only can it help you to get you started in programming, but it can also help you debug your programs as well. And also in terms of marketing and sales, you name it, right? Content generation, creating your next social media post, creating that press release, content that needs to be delivering your brand message. That is something that AI can help as well. And even business operations as well. So we're going to be looking at this next 10 minutes or so. We're going to be looking at these business functions and see how are some of these examples playing itself out using AI. And so we're going to look at some of these business functions. First example, accounting. Any business, all businesses have the accounting role. And for accounting, it's always about managing your, let's say, income, cash flows, income statements, and so forth. So we always have these type of analysis. Now imagine this. What if I tell you that with AI, we can actually play the role of an accountant or an auditor just by simply providing your income statement and allowing it to do analysis reports to be able to analyze the profit and loss of your income statement, just like an accountant, and furthermore, to provide summaries to highlight, to ensure that future fiscal years, things that potentially need to be aware of are being highlighted. This is something that is very, very possible. Secondly, in terms of any business or production or manufacturing, quality is always the top priority. Now, what if I tell you that with your quality chart or quality report, where, for example, in this situation, a Pareto quality chart, which highlights some of the quality issues, I'm able to feed that into ChatGPT. And then furthermore, not only have it to understand a JPG image chart, but also at the same time, please, based on this chart, provide us with a quality analysis report that not only highlights, the analysis of these different failure types, but also provide the introduction, furthermore, the corrective actions, okay, that needs to be taken, okay, to ensure that these failures don't occur in the future, to ensure that, to sort of tell your customer, but also at the same time, what are some of the conclusions to this analysis? Thirdly, in any business or in a sense of manufacturing, we are always looking at data to some extent. So here in Taiwan, smart manufacturing is a critical component to a lot of the manufacturers. And with smart manufacturing, what you get are sensors that are embedded or are installed in these different equipments, manufacturing equipment, CNC machines, and all that stuff. These sensors are collecting massive amount of data, whether it be, temperature, whether it be, the X and Y lateral movements, things of that nature. Those are all data that are being collected on not only on an hourly basis, but even on a minute to even second basis. Now, with all that type of data, imagine the process you would need to go through to be able to analyze that. And honestly, in the past, that process itself took not only one person, but a team of individuals with the necessary tools, the necessary analysis tools to be able to accomplish that. Now with AI, we can do something very similar and even faster and more efficient. So with this example, what you see are essentially sensor data from equipments. And furthermore, the data format of this is what we usually see, let's say, in an Excel table that houses all these data. So first thing I did was I provided that to AI, ChatGPT, and I asked it, can you recognize this data? Because if it cannot recognize it, it won't be able to help me analyze it. And it was able to successfully do that. It was able to help me identify that, hey, your data includes these columns and then it even recognizes that these are sensor data. And then furthermore, in the past, when we have this type of data, we always are asked to, let's say, maybe create charts. And the way we did that before was, let's say, through Excel, using Excel to create charts, which sometimes, I have to be very honest, is very time consuming. Now with AI, all we need to do is be able to set the right prompt, design the right prompt, and tell it to be able to not only create charts, but also provide statistical analysis, such as, what is the mean, what is the standard deviation, things of all that good stuff that usually as a manufacturer or, on the shop floor, when they are trying to identify root causes to your manufacturing defects or issues, these statistics are critical. Now, in the past, in order to be able to calculate these type of statistics, like I said, it took not only one person, but it takes a team with the right tools. Now, all we need is the data as well as let's say a ChatGPT, and we're able to calculate that. And then furthermore, what's cool about this is ultimately to be able to gain insights, we need to be able to identify correlation analysis between sensors. How are sensors and sensors between them is affecting, let's say, the output of this quality. And so with AI, we're able to also be able to create these type of analysis, these very, very highly technical analysis, such as correlation analysis, looking at it on the left side, a matrix of these analysis, and then furthermore, to be able to provide what are some of the low correlations, the positive correlations, to really pinpoint the root cause of some of these issues. And fourth, are operations. So with any businesses, we're always juggling multiple projects. And I'm pretty sure for you guys, sometimes, we're always trying to manage that schedule. And just recently here in Taiwan, we were hit by one of the largest typhoons, which is very common here in Taiwan. And furthermore, Taiwan is one of the few countries, I believe one of the only countries in the world that provides its citizens typhoon holidays. And when this typhoon hit, which was about a month or 2 months ago, the typhoon was so big, and it was around for so long that there was a 3-day holiday. So imagine that, right? So when there's a typhoon, okay, I'm not sure about Eswatini, but here in Taiwan, when there's a typhoon, the citizens, in sake of their health, in sake of their safety, there's typhoon holidays. But more importantly, in that situation, it really affects a project schedule. So how can we have ChatGPT? How can we have AI help us with that? So as you see on this slide, this is, let's say, a project schedule for developing a new country. And in my question below, I asked ChatGPT to say, hey, if there's a typhoon coming in Taiwan and there's going to be a delay of 3 working days, how can you help me optimize my project schedule? And in the past, this process itself is manually painstaking, because you have to look at various factors and where potentially are going to be the task that's affected. And so in this situation, instead of you manually having to do this, all you need to have to do is have AI provide you with different scenarios, plan A, plan 1, and plan 2. And this can be done instantaneously without having that manual painstaking process. So schedule optimization for an operation function department is very, very useful. And then fifth, when we look at any business, I think visual storytelling is critical. Not only does it convey your business in terms of your culture, in terms of your mission, all that stuff, sometimes instead of just purely words, text, we also need visualization. Now with AI, we are able to train specific design styles, which is relevant or specific to whether it be per individual or per company. So in this situation, the famous Claude Monet, as we know, has a very unique artistry design style. In that situation, we would be able to train AI to learn that style and then furthermore, apply it in different scenarios. For example, the Japan Tenryuji Garden, which Claude Monet never drawn, but however, because we've trained AI to learn the style of Claude Monet, it is then able to create a similar style. So, for example, in a business setting, we would then also think about how can AI help us with design, but also not from a purely general perspective, but how can it also be instilled our culture, our unique design style that aligns with our brand image and our, let's say, corporate image. This is definitely something that AI can help as well. So in this situation, you see an obvious, clear intra-domain image translation. So in this situation, let's say if you are creating a new product for your upcoming season, and you have these type of colors that you would like to implement, which is the hottest colors for the upcoming summer. And also at the same time, based on your production capabilities, you are able to produce these type of shoe form factors. Now, instead of you having to physically, let's say, Photoshop to be able to draw out each and one of these, the different form factors and with the different color styles, what if I tell you that there's a way where we can utilize AI to visually, instantaneously create the different variations so that you can actually take a look at this before you even take one step in terms of designing. This is what AI can do. Without you having to actually go in and actually do the design itself, it can help you with the ideation process. And then furthermore, from a marketing perspective, we always want to learn about our customers. This is what customer insights about. So in this situation, customer insights from a digital perspective, you see a lot of those insights from reviews, from customer ratings and things of that nature. What if I tell you that based on these reviews, not only are these reviews for customers to provide testimonials, but those are reviews where you can actually pull that data and then furthermore, to be able to provide the necessary analysis to better understand what are some of the sentiments behind these reviews and how can you improve on your product and your product offering. These are all things that with AI, it is very possible. So the last, I would say, we have about 15 minutes left. And I want to share about 15 to 20 minutes left before we get into the Q&A session. And I just want to share with you guys, aside from all the good stuff and all the wow stuff that I just shared with you, which commonly we hear out in the marketplace. But what is one thing that it is not commonly being discussed is its constraints and limitations. So I want to be able to take this opportunity, this next 15 to 20 minutes, to be able to share with you guys, when we utilize these types of tools, what are some of the things that we need to be mindful of? And the two key aspects that we're going to be exploring is essentially its bias as well as its potential privacy issue, which at the heart and soul, as users, these are two most critical items that we really care about when we are engaging or using any technology tools. So let's look into it. Bias. AI, I must say, AI is systematically unfair to certain groups of people. And just like humans, right? Humans have bias, we have stereotypes, AI does too. Because ultimately, AI is trained by humans. It's trained by the data that's fed by the humans. So to some extent, it has correlations. And so let's look at this bias. And there are many reasons for these type of AI biases. And we're going to just go into some of them, the key ones. And let's look at one example, the gender and representation brilliant bias. In this situation, what I've shown on the slide, essentially the prompt is someone is a world-leading professor. And so I'm having, let's say, ChatGPT describe this individual as a world-leading professor based on his knowledge. And the prompt for these two, the only thing it changes is essentially the name, which with any name, it has a gender correlation or attachment to it. So in this situation, the first one is author, which obviously is a male. Emma obviously is a female name. And so that's the only change that we've inserted into this prompt. Aside from that, the prompt itself is a world-leading professor, is exactly the same. And so when I ask ChatGPT these two prompts, amazingly, surprisingly, it gives me two different responses. And so when we looked at first one, it states that author obviously is a world-leading professor. Some of the keywords that it uses includes groundbreaking, influential, citation of more than 10,000 times. This is what ChatGPT provided when I asked it to, based on this prompt, author is a world-leading professor, to describe who he is. This is the response. However, when I use that same response, but when I use a female gendered person name, the response that it gave me was completely different. It doesn't have all these different influential keywords such as groundbreaking 10,000 times. Instead, it uses words that we commonly see in describing females, such as passionate, helping, understanding. So what you can see is that the prompt itself, although it doesn't change, but the gender of the name led ChatGPT to provide different responses, which obviously can be seen that there is a bias on gender. And why is that? Let's explore that aspect. So ChatGPT in itself is trained on millions of parameters, and then furthermore, data sets that you can never imagine in terms of amount. And this is, to some extent, is some of the data. 60% are common crawls, which essentially are web page data. And then furthermore, 22% are web texts, which are usually in, let's say, forums, chat discussion groups, and things of that nature. And then the rest are essentially books, for example, Library of Congress, text and all that stuff. But what I want to share with you guys is this. The website, obviously, the World Wide Web, that's not something that we can really change. It is what it is. All these books, obviously, was selected by humans, so it was based on a human decision. But when we look at the web text, which is the forums, this is quite interesting because this accounts a substantial amount of weight in the data that ChatGPT was trained on. And so when we look at what is web text, when we dive into that, it is, for example, Reddit. Reddit is a perfect example. It is a forum where people are discussing different issues. And when we look at the distribution of Reddit users, you see a very clear segmentation. 63% are male, 36% are female. So obviously, if 22% of the data is trained on this data on web text or on Reddit, for example, then it is going to be skewed more towards male versus female because the users are more male than female. Now, what's another potential bias? When we look at the users of Reddit, 47 or almost 50% of users are United States versus the other countries, UK 7%, 7.4, Canada 7.3. Essentially, what you see here is the Western countries accounts for a majority of the users on Reddit. So obviously, you would assume that when you are engaging with, let's say, ChatGPT, it is going to be more Western country biased. And furthermore, when we look at the actual age distribution of these users, you see that they are more heavily skewed towards the younger users. 16 to 29 accounts for about 36%. And then, of course, the 30 to 49, 22, and so forth. And so once again, the information that is provided on ChatGPT is going to be much more skewed towards the younger generation versus the older generation. So this is what I'm trying to say, is that when we are using, let's say, generative AI tools such as ChatGPT, not only do we need to understand how to engage with them, but we also need to understand the underlying bias that's behind them. And so this way, as we understand it, then we can think about how we can optimize our design prompts, our prompt framework, so that to make sure these type of biases are potentially minimized. So for example, in our situation, let's say when I am, let's say, engaging with ChatGPT, and if I'm writing it, having it to respond to me in Chinese, sometimes I need to tell it, not only I need to clarify that please reply to me, not in simplified Chinese, which is the commonly character used in China, but however, respond to me in traditional Chinese, which is what's commonly used here in Taiwan. And then furthermore, I need to have it to put on the perspective of a Taiwanese reader, meaning that because, sometimes the languages between the two areas are used differently. And so in that type of situation, it minimizes bias. And then furthermore, it provides the right information that's usable in your area or region. So in this situation, very similarly, you would need to think about how you can utilize prompt design optimization to minimize these type of biases. Next, the next question that we're going to be looking at is privacy. And so in the news, so the last 10 minutes, we're going to be looking at 5 to 10 minutes, we're going to be looking at privacy. So currently right now in the news, you always see that, the X company or another Y company is restricting the users, their employees of using ChatGPT, which is quite common. And in fact, even Microsoft, which is one of the biggest, the largest, in fact, Microsoft is the largest investor of ChatGPT or OpenAI. It even briefly restricted its employees to access OpenAI. So something must be going on here, right? If all these technology companies are banning their employees to use ChatGPT or OpenAI, then there must be some sort of a privacy issue that we need to learn about. And so what is at risk? The data collection. What type of data it is collecting, the security of these data, the retention, how long are they keeping this data? Was there a user consent when they were about to collect this data? And what's their sharing policy with third parties? These are all things that not just ChatGPT, not just OpenAI, not just AI itself, but with any internet/technology applications nowadays, when we engage, we really need to think about, because that's the world that we live in right now, right? On the internet, data is being potentially collected. And so, like I said, this is not strictly just targeting OpenAI or ChatGPT per se, but in general, in terms of the internet, in terms of technology, these are some of the things that are at risk. Now, with OpenAI, just like with most of the technology companies, they understand that, because if they do not handle this sensibly, users are going to flee the service. So I'm not sure if you guys have tried this out before, but with ChatGPT, there are settings that you can control. And these settings include what you see on this page. You can, for example, you can download to get an understanding of what type of data they have on you, okay? And then decide if this is something that you want to be worried about. Or furthermore, something that we often see is that the data that you provide, you would not want it to be provided as a training data, right? Because if they use it as a training data, then potentially there might be some sort of a potential for confidential information leaking out. Let's say maybe someone else asking the same question, and then if your confidential data was trained, then possibly when ChatGPT is responding to another person's question, it may leak out some information that you have provided at an earlier time, right? So that's something that we definitely want to make sure that it is being enacted. Or furthermore, yeah, you can also always take the extreme, which is directly asking it to delete your account, or maybe even removing your personal data, right? So all this stuff, it is readily available. So of course, these are some of the risks that we need to take into consideration, but however, at the same time, we need to understand that we do have some control. Now, of course, if you're on the free subscription, which essentially you're not paying any money, then you definitely want to not only make these type of settings, but if you just want to make sure that these issues don't happen to you, there's always other options, such as maybe switching it to a paid plan or a subscription model, which OpenAI states very clearly that your data will not be trained. And then furthermore, one of the trends that we currently see is that now a lot of the users now are very used to ChatGPT and its interface. Now, however, if we don't want to take that risk of having the remote chances of being leaked out into the cloud, is it possible to train or build our own GPT? And the answer is yes. And furthermore, this seems to be a trend, right? So internally within your business, within your organization, within your department, we have a lot of sitting data that's not being fully utilized. Aside from the structured data that's usually in your ERPs, your CRMs, and your BPMs, all these systems, which is essentially storing your structured data, we have a lot of unstructured data that are in text, that are in such as meeting notes, your Word documents, your presentations, and all that stuff. Those are all things that cannot be stored in the system, at least in the past. Now, what if I tell you that these data can be, to some extent, help you build your own ChatGPT, so that not only does it have the general intelligence of, let's say, what ChatGPT has, but it has specific domain intelligence pertaining to your organization, pertaining to your purpose. And so ChatGPT can, based on this data, it can do what AI is very good at: 3 things. Help you classify these data to group them, group the similarity ones together. Furthermore, help you provide generation in terms of creating content based on not just the general intelligence, but based on your past unstructured data, and then furthermore providing summarization. And then so ultimately you would be able to create a company domain specific ChatGPT that's specifically targeting your industry, your department, your organization, cutting a firewall between, the cloud, the ChatGPT, the OpenAI. So without the concerning about, the privacy issues, the security issues. Ultimately, it is at your own location, and if you still are fearful of, let's say, security issues, at the end of the day, what you just need to do is just need to unplug your landline or your Wi-Fi, and it will not be connected to the internet anymore. So this is definitely something that can be considered if necessary, if you are already very used to the interface that ChatGPT provides. And of course, the last option is what I always say. I think 5 things that you should never share, not only with ChatGPT, but even online. Sensitive company data is definitely a no-no. Or even, creative works and intellectual properties. These are files and things that if you don't want other people to access, then this is definitely something that you don't want to be sharing online as well. or even financial information, personal data, and of course, the most sensitive, your usernames and passwords. So these are all, to some extent, common sense, right? So whenever, not only just ChatGPT, but with any internet technology service that you encounter online nowadays, these are the 5 things that you should definitely think about barring or engaging with these services to ensure that security breaches do not happen. And so in conclusion, I just want to share, I mean, we have like 2 minutes left before we get into Q&A. In conclusion, I know, especially with, the previous COVID, the pandemic, there was a huge push on digital transformation. And digital transformation, I believe, many businesses are still in the process of succeeding in that. But I have to admit, sometimes digital transformation, it is very difficult depending on the business itself, the business culture, and ultimately for businesses or for organizations to undergo digital transformation, sometimes the result of it is not as clear. And what I usually see is that businesses or organizations, they go through the sake of, they go through the process of digital transformation for the sake of doing digital transformation. So they are starting to maybe inputting their information from paper into systems. That's an example of digital transformation. But that process itself, it is to some extent, sometimes it's double the work. It's very manual painstaking, and the effects of it, sometimes you don't see it very directly. Now, what I have encouraged and I have preached recently is that do not let digital transformation hinder you on this path of AI transformation, because what doesn't work in digital transformation may not be the same situation in terms of AI transformation, because with AI transformation, you might be able to leapfrog the process of digital, but also at the same time see actual results. So in that example of writing, to converting what is written or what is speech into writing into a system, now with AI, you can actually do voice recognition. So you don't even need to have the writing part. You don't even need to have the inputting part. I can actually have it recognized from your speech into the system itself. Okay, so we are already leapfrogging the digital part. And then furthermore, the results that you get in the past in digital transformation, it may be just a report, but now with AI transformation, you can actually get summaries, you can actually get, analysis. And so with that, AI transformation makes sense. So what I'm saying is digital transformation is critical to the advantages and the success of any business. But however, do not let that hinder you as you move forward with AI transformation. Okay, so that concludes my session. And then I know people are coming in and out of different sessions, so I want to make sure that I get, if you are interested in getting my power presentation, make sure to scan this QR code, leave your contact information, and also give me some feedback, and I will share with you this presentation that I just went through. And then please do provide feedback so I can hopefully improve and maybe see you guys next year. And then this way I can better understand what you guys are looking for and also what you guys hope to learn. And then lastly, once again, for those that are only attending the first session, this is my contact information, my email, my website, and my LinkedIn QR code. So any questions, do reach out and we can stay connected. Okay, Nicholas, I think we can get into our Q&A session now. Do you want to facilitate? Yep.
Yeah, okay. Right now I see a few questions already on the chat. So the first question I see here is, okay, let me see.
Hey, so I can't see the question, so please, read the question to me so I can help answer it.
Okay, so I see the first question is, so has AI reached the health sector? For example, does it do diagnosis on illness accurately?
Yeah, well, that's a very good question. That is actually one of the industries that Spark Amplify we're tackling as well. And so with AI, I think there's a couple of things that it can definitely off the bat, facilitate the healthcare industry, right? X-ray image detection. this is definitely something that the data is already there. We already have a lot of these X-ray files. And let's say, so for example, in our situation, we are currently working with the dental industry, and they have a lot of the teeth X-rays. So I'm able to train the AI to understand the positioning of teeth, and then furthermore, to be able to identify diagnosis treatments, such as maybe root canals, cavities, and things of that nature. And so in healthcare, it's the same thing, whether it be tumors and cancer tumors and all that stuff. As long as we have enough of those X-rays, we can definitely do image detection. Furthermore, voice detection is also possible. The engagement between doctors and patients, all that record in the past potentially was handwritten, or maybe it was typed. Now through voice recognition, we can definitely transform or transcribe that information into digital text, and then furthermore make analysis of it and be saved into your health records. Yeah, so in healthcare, you definitely do see a lot of potential with AI. Yeah.
Okay.
Next question.
I see this. The second question is, in light of the growing dependency on AI in critical systems, what strategies and practices are being implemented to ensure the reliability and robustness of AI technologies? And how do you plan to integrate human oversight to mitigate the risk of potential failure or malfunctions?
Yeah. That's definitely a good question. So I always say, so in many of my talks, I'm always asked, right? Hey, Chen, when is AI going to replace us? And I always say, I think AI, to be honest, I think it's still at its very early stages. It is nowhere near of replacing humans. But I always say, I think it is, it is those people that knows how to use AI tools that will potentially replace, those that don't. That is the hard knocks truth. And then furthermore, I always say, I think AI, because it is not, it's still at its early stages. So the results that you gain from AI, sometimes it is not even close to being, delivered. So that's why it is, to some extent, it is the collaboration with AI and humans, right? The humans have the domain knowledge. The AI is good at crunching numbers. It can do it. It can look at a huge amount of data sets, which humans are not very good at. But the domain knowledge itself still needs to come from humans. It's human beings. And so that's actually one of my that's my PhD thesis. We're looking at how AI and humans interact, and then furthermore, what role can humans play? What value can it add? So that by collaborating with AI, humans are more efficient, and then furthermore are able to focus more on what makes us human, the human and human interaction, our domain knowledge. And so some of the oversights, ultimately, I would suggest, is never trust purely on just what AI gives you, but the human always needs to interject and also need to be a part of that process. And ultimately, it is still a tool. So it is a collaborative process. Yep.
Okay.
Next question.
I still see a lot of questions here. I'll be reading them on, and we'll be also allowing people to speak if anyone wants. I have seen someone raising their hand.
Turn on the mics. Yeah.
Yes, if you want to speak, you can raise your hand. I can open your mic.
Yeah, can you help facilitate that as well? Yeah, I don't see that. Okay.
Yeah, okay. So let me read the next question here. So the next question is, which programs can help make the color variations in design adaptations?
Oh, okay. So that goes to my example, right? So, there's actually, there are, similar tools, but what I mentioned is definitely something that needs to be customized. I mean, because, like I said, currently right now I'm studying a PhD on AI, and we see a lot of these very, very advanced research. And so today in my presentation, not only am I sharing with you some of the tools that are already commercially available, but for example, that design transfer domain aspect of it, it is something that's currently still, very at the, forefront of technology. But it is possible because we see it in the labs, we see it in, research papers. And so something like that, it will definitely be something where you need to, have the data. You also need to have that domain knowledge, and then work with really, engineers or AI researchers to really put that together. But I believe that is definitely something that will be something that be very common in the very near future. Yeah.
Okay, I can see someone raising a hand. Let me just open the mic. So for Langelo Dramini, I think I just opened the mic for you.
Hi, Langelo. Yeah, I think the mic is still off though, Nicholas.
Wait. Okay, can you try to speak now?
Hey, Angelo.
Hello.
Hey, hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Thank you so much for the presentation. Thank you so much for APA inviting all of us coming in.
Yep. Thank
Great
you for
analysis, Chen. Great. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Very clear. Crystal clear.
Yes. Thank you so much. I was appreciating the presentation, appreciating what APA is doing, as well, just inviting us in. So Chen, I heard as well, you talking about digital transformation. It's a very difficult process, as you're saying. 2011, just going back to 2011, where it actually started out, the term digital transformation and how actually that can be done. And so what I noticed as well was most of the organizations were doing digitization. So normally not doing the transformation of things. So my question is, what advice would you actually maybe put up to companies, organizations to actually really lean much more on the transformation part of things? Where are we right now as a people in terms of the transformation part? Because digitization is what exactly is taking place largely. So the transformation part, particularly with AI. So what exactly can you actually say in terms of really putting in the transformation part in digital, in digitization, in digital transformation? So what exactly can you say? What advice can you make? What can you say in terms of the transformation part? How do we transform using AI?
Yeah. Well, Langelo, yeah, that's a great question. And yeah, I'm not sure if I have the right answer, because if I, if I do, I'd probably be a millionaire right now. But I think, to answer your question, I think is that slide I just showed you, right? I think with digital transformation as well as AI transformation, I think it requires 3 key elements. And these 3 key elements include, we need to have potentially even re-engineer or redesign our current process. The process needs to change because if you're still using the same process and you're trying to tack on, digital transformation or AI to it, it may not work, because the current process, it works because, for the sake of what it is right now. So the process itself needs to change. And then secondly, for example, like I shared with you guys today, I mean, tools, right? You got to know how to use the right tools. Knowing the right tools is critical as well, because if you don't know the right tools, then you're potentially still trying to drive that Toyota like a Ferrari, but it's not going to be able to go at that rate, right? So you need to change that car and change it to a Ferrari so that it can actually handle that speed. So the tool needs to change. And then lastly is the people, which I believe all of you guys are here today as well, right? Is to learn, is to, sort of to have that mindset. We need to be open about this because if we're pushing back on AI, we're just thinking it negatively, how maybe it will replace me, then you'll never have that open mindset. But if we have that open mindset that, hey, this is a tool that I need to learn how to coexist with it, then that's the first step. And then secondly, obviously, in this conversation, you're learning about, new ways of potentially using these things, right? So these 3 critical elements are what I consider to be key to success, not only for digital transformation, but also AI transformation. Now, the only part about AI that's different than digital is that, AI still needs digital because it still needs to be able to gather all that information in a digital sense. But the only difference is that possibly in the past for digital transformation, in order for it to be digital, you would need to require a lot of the manual process to make it digital because you need to input it. For example, if you're doing a CRM in the past, you've never done sales reports or sales daily logs. Now you need to key those systems in order for it to analyze, in order for it to be digital. However, now with AI, potentially that manual part can be done away because now it can actually automatically, let's say through voice recognition, it can actually translate all that or transcribe all that for you. And then furthermore, I think with AI, the only difference is that you need to have enough data in order for it to have its intelligence, right? Because in order for it, the computer to be able to learn or have any capacity of intelligence, it needs to have that data to be trained on. So that's the only difference. But at the end of the day, I think it's very similar. So I'm not sure if that answered your question, but if any questions, you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn. Okay, Nicholas, let's aim for another, maybe one or two before we get to,
yes.
Yeah, in 6 minutes.
I do see some similar questions here. So I think a lot of people are worried about the educational system, in which you have students using AI. And so it's kind of like helping students, but also in a good and a bad way. So I can see, like, for example, there's a question mentioning about the future workforce evolving landscape of AI, considering that many current courses may become obsolete in the eyes of tomorrow's employees. And okay, I can see similar questions also in the chat.
Yeah. Okay, so it's basically around education, right?
Yes.
Okay, so like I mentioned before, I mean, in my slides, I did mention that I'm currently not only, we work with most of the top universities, not only here in Taiwan, but globally as well. And so I'm actually, like adjunct lectures, also talking about AI in these classes. And I just want to share with you, in all of my classes, I tell the students straight out, I use AI to evaluate your assignments. Because, for example, in one of my classes, I teach about AI marketing, and I have the students learn about writing prompts, right? And so these type of stuff, it is to some extent text and all that stuff, and then so I use AI to actually evaluate how complete this prompt is. And the reason why I tell them is because ultimately, as they get into the workforce, they're going to be working with AI, and then furthermore, AI is not really about finding the right answer, which in the traditional formative education, we're always trained about finding the right answer, right? So for example, on tests, we always need to, have the correct answer to be able to score well. But in the age of AI, it's not really about finding the answer because ultimately answers are everywhere, right? Google, internet, answers are everywhere. It's really about asking the right question, right? If you're able to ask the right question, answer just comes along with it. So for example, I have two kids, one is 12, one is 9. Since last year, I have them when they're in school, I have them say, hey, you got to ask 2 questions. Learn how to ask questions. I think, and then of course, I think that sometimes conflicts with our educational system, but I think learning about asking the right questions, utilizing AI to some extent to help facilitate their learning process, I think that is key. Now, so at this, but of course, with education wise, sometimes we focus a lot on the right answer, but potentially as we include AI in this process, we might need to focus less on the answer, but more on the process or that logic of reaching to that answer. I think that is more important. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, I think we get one last question first before getting to the last session. Okay, one more. So we have a few people asking. I think these are also very similar questions. So we have some people asking about the AI algorithm. Is it going to be non-biased, discriminatory in the analysis of financial data? And how can business mitigate the risk?
So the bias example that I showed you, is very clear. It does exist. But then again, in real life, humans have bias and stereotypes as well, right? And at the end of the day, AI was created by humans. And so indirectly, or maybe even directly, it will, no matter what, it will include bias. But but the benefit of AI bias versus human bias is this. With human bias, you cannot change a person's mind, because they've been fixated in that, because a lot of the bias is due to their culture and their raising up and so forth. But with computers, sometimes it is a little bit easier to minimize that. And how? It would through, by, let's say, for example, in your prompts. Yeah, like I said before, right? If I'm trying to create a text or a content specifically for the Taiwanese market, I don't want to just say very generally, give me something in Chinese, right? Because from a data perspective, obviously, or from a population perspective, China would have a lot more data. And then so in that sense, a lot more data would be more skewed towards that. But in my prompt, if I specifically state that, hey, I would like to write this for the target audience of Taiwan, for Taiwan readers, or for Taiwan consumers, and then furthermore, I would like you to change the characters and so forth, then those are things that you are using to optimize your prompt to minimize the potential bias that it inherently includes. And so to answer that question, I would say is this: to minimize bias, you cannot eradicate it to zero, but you can definitely minimize it with prompt optimization. And those are things that we need to think about and learn about. And so that's why I included in today's lecture, right? So I want you guys to know that it exists. And so when you guys are engaging, the next time you're engaging with ChatGPT, make sure that you put on that, the limitation bias, hat or mind, and then think about what Chento, shared today, right? Make sure on your prompt to specifically state, your purpose and and eliminate the potential bias that it may exist. Okay.
All right. I guess
Are we
let's
good?
switch to the next session.
Okay. Hey, should we? Yeah. Remember, we have like a 5-minute break, right? Should we
we
give
can have a
everyone
5-minute break. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Let's
yeah,
get a
yeah.
5-minute break first.
So let's start at 35. Yeah, right now
Okay.
it's 30, right? So I believe our 5-minute break was from 30 to 35, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we're right on schedule right now. Okay. So I'm
See you
gonna
in 5 minutes.
yeah. And I'll switch the PowerPoint as well. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess we are back. I think your mic is off. Yeah.
Okay, we're back. Yeah, do you see my slide for the second session?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Perfect. Okay, so we're gonna go into the second session. And yeah, I think we didn't lose. Yeah, I remember seeing about 56, 57. So I guess we didn't lose too many people, I guess. Okay, good. Okay, so good to have you guys back. And for those that stick around and you know, we'll have another 1 hour before we get to the finish line. And like I said, I'm going to promise I'm going to try to share with you guys a case study that actually was a result of last year's event. And so hopefully when you guys hear that, yeah, you guys should definitely be proud of these talented individuals. And furthermore, you know, with our discussions, they were able to really make great strides and also hopefully on the path of, helping Eswatini to become successful in the e-commerce space. Okay, so anyway, good to be back. And so the second session, the title or the topic is actually boosting your e-commerce sales with social selling, powered by LinkedIn. And so the session number 2's agenda, we're going to look at a couple of things. One, we're going to dive in a little bit deeper in terms of what is social selling, right? I'm not sure. I mean, people probably have heard of this phrase, or this phrase itself is essentially made up of 2 words, right? Social, which you can probably guess it involves social media. Selling obviously is something that any businesses would need to do effectively and productively, I guess. And so now, however, when we combine these 2 words, what does social selling mean? And this is what I considered it to be like a new trend that we are currently observing now on the internet. And then secondly, when I'm pretty sure when you guys saw that title, you'll be surprised. It's this, wow, why did Chen pick LinkedIn, right? Because for many of you, you might be thinking with e-commerce, the first thing that comes to your mind in terms of social media might be something like Facebook, right? Or maybe even Instagram or things of that nature, which honestly, if that was the topic, you probably don't need me to speak about it because there's probably a ton of people that's speaking about that as well already. But I definitely always want to provide you guys with some special insights, right? And then furthermore, based on my experiences, how I use a social media platform like LinkedIn to essentially help promote my brand or my e-commerce brand. And this is definitely, once again, just like our previous session, the previous session, I spent some time talking about, the privacy issues, the bias issues, which sometimes is not being discussed. And in this situation, I'm going to be sharing with you guys how to use LinkedIn to promote your e-commerce brand, which I am sure is also another topic that's not being discussed that commonly out in the marketplace. And so how do we do that? It is essentially utilizing 4 key aspects of what powers LinkedIn. And in fact, with LinkedIn, we can help our brand storytelling process, which, unlike any other social media, you can actually do it very effectively on LinkedIn. Furthermore, with LinkedIn, we can very targeted expand the necessary network that you need to be influential or in your space. And then thirdly, because it is a social media for professionals, there are communities or social media groups that not only will be relevant to your e-commerce brand or the product category that you are promoting, but also through these groups, possibly you'll be able to identify potential users of your product. And lastly, just like with any social media, there's always the resource of advertising. And of course, you know, versus what you see usually in Facebook, the advertising that you see on LinkedIn, it is especially unique to the extent of the analysis, the demographic analysis, the performance analysis that you get from the campaigns that you execute. And so I'm going to be sharing with you some of those insights as well. And lastly, like I mentioned before, the case study, we're going to be looking at a up and coming company, an Eswatini company called Customer Connect, where they are on the path or on the journey of hopefully achieving Eswatini e-commerce success. Okay, so that will be our agenda for the second session. Okay, so since we are talking about e-commerce, we can never forget about, you know, some of the statistics, right? And of course, once again, globally wise, you know, e-commerce now plays a very critical role in terms of online sales. And so when you look at from a number perspective, you know, global retail online sales, especially for e-commerce, it is expected to reach 8.1 trillion by 2026. And a lot of that increase is by replacing, you know, the traditional retail sales offline, right? So a lot of people nowadays are potentially more inclined to buy stuff online because of convenience and many, many other reasons, which we'll talk about in the next slide. But it is now becoming a critical component of selling in general. And then furthermore, the stores and the sites such as Amazon, they are, you know, in terms of the e-commerce stores alone, there are 26 million online stores selling. And furthermore, there are 2.64 billion digital buyers accounting for 33% of the global population. So as you can see, it is e-commerce to some extent, it is a force to be reckoned with. And in addition, it is definitely a trend that whether you are in America, whether you are in Africa, whether you are in South America or Europe, whatever, it is definitely a business model. It is definitely something that needs to be considered because it is a trend that is, to some extent, being very effective and also, you know, taking over. And so why is e-commerce important for your business? So there are a couple of aspects of it, which I'm going to be highlighting, mainly these 5. First, as consumers, as users, as buyers, we now spend a lot of time on internet. In fact, internet is usually the first place we go when we are thinking about buying something, whether it be for research, whether it be to get, let's say, recommendations, whether it be even to closing the gap of in terms of actually making the purchase, depending on if e-commerce is readily available in their area. And so people research before they buy. This is the trend. And then secondly, it is the sheer convenience, right? So imagine this. Before there was internet, anything you buy would essentially be, you know, the local retail stores that are possibly nearby where you live, right? That is essentially your scope or, you know, the outreach of the product selections that you have. Now with e-commerce, you could essentially purchase stores that are all the way on the other side of the globe. And then furthermore, to have it delivered to you at your footsteps. So the convenience essentially opens up many things, including you have more selection now, you have more options you can choose from, and then furthermore, you can also compare prices. Now, in terms of marketing opportunities as e-commerce businesses, in the past, when we are doing offline retail selling, we can only rely on the traditional method of marketing, whether it be through paper form advertisements, whether it be through media and things of that nature. And then to be able to direct people to your stores. Now with e-commerce, since it originates on the internet, you are able to take advantage of the various targeting methods or advertisement methods, whether it be pay-per-click, whether it be SEO, things of that nature, to be able to directly target your product, your services to the right audience. So it opens up a tremendous digital marketing opportunity. Next is, like I said, the reach and the brand recognition. You can still be a retail store, but in the past, you can only connect with, for example, buyers that are nearby your stores, because people are not going to fly all the way, let's say maybe across the globe or maybe across the continent to buy your product unless you are, you know, especially unique. But now with e-commerce, you have a greater reach. And then furthermore, as any product owner or brand owner, your ultimate goal is to be able to have a broader reach of your brand. And so with e-commerce, that recognition is possible. And then of course, in the past, as a retailer or a mom and pop store, the scale of your business is limited by possibly by your location, right? You know, how big your city is, how, you know, what's your population of your city and so forth. But now, as you enter, you know, the internet space, the whole entire world is your market. As long as you have the right marketing strategy, as long as you have the right brand message, as long as you have the right method in terms of attracting your target audience, your business can scale as big as you would like. And so these are all things that, you know, in the past, I mean, and then furthermore, in order to be able to be that big in the past, if you were a brick and mortar retail store, you would need to have physical spaces to be able to, let's say, have inventories to store and all that stuff. Now, a lot of that stuff is virtual. You don't need the infrastructure. You can have services providers that to be able to help you do the logistics. You can be as small as you like, but at the same time, be as big as you want in terms of market size with e-commerce. So that is essentially why e-commerce is important for your business, whether it be for business or whether it be for a region, a culture, a country. It is a key aspect of commerce in general. Okay, so we're going to be looking at the new trend, which I coined it, or I, you know, mentioned it, calling it social selling. And the first thing is, the key to social selling is social, okay, is the first word social. It is not the word selling, okay? So don't think about, well, social selling, it is me out there like the, you know, the traditional sales, selling my product. It's really about the social aspect of it, building that necessary relationship that you need before your potential customer buys from you. It's almost like the way, let's say on Facebook, you would engage with your family and friends. Knowing, let's say, for example, a birthday is coming up, you would then send a note, continuing that, you know, relationship building. Same thing with social selling. These are these are people that may not be your family and friends, but these are potential people that either from a B2B aspect of it, be your customers doing business with you, or from a B2C aspect of it, possibly buying your product. But it is not about selling. It is about building relationship first. So that is the key to social selling. And as we move forward with anything, we need to be able to identify a specific social media that has enough of these users that potentially are people you would like to engage. And so nowadays, I mean, social media, there are different forms of social media. There are, let's say, TikTok, IG more on pictures, TikTok more on videos. Facebook obviously is your traditional social media. And LinkedIn, on the other side, is a lot of it is more for professionals that are on there, right? These are all different social media serving different spaces. And then, however, the key with any social media is, do they have enough active users using their platform? If so, then they are a good option for you to possibly practice social selling, because through the medium of the social media, you are able to engage people that fits in your target audience, your persona, and then furthermore, to be able to build that relationship virtually, because they're not living next to you, they're not in your neighborhood, but virtually build that relationship, and then furthermore, create that trust that needs to be there in order for you to either sell your service or for them to buy the product that you're selling. Okay, and so LinkedIn is definitely one of the options. And furthermore, right now it's got over 1 billion users in over 200 countries. So it is a very global platform, and it is a very active platform. And so that obviously satisfies all the key criteria that you need for social selling. So it is not, however, when we think about LinkedIn, it's like, well, is that a job site? That is the number one LinkedIn myth. It's not just a job site. It is not only, and then furthermore, it is not only for B2B marketing. It is also good for e-commerce brands to build awareness and acquire new customers. So that is our topic today. How can we use LinkedIn to achieve those two objectives? Build awareness and find your new customers. First, let's analyze intent. We have to understand, because there are different types of social media, we got to understand how to utilize them. With Facebook, it is about staying up to date with your friends, to be entertained. Same thing with Twitter or X, now with the new name X. But with LinkedIn, it's actually different. On LinkedIn, it is actually more about how can I utilize this social media to possibly improve my career, or maybe even, like I mentioned before, search for new opportunities. So if your e-commerce or the product that you are selling satisfies these type of, themes, then it is definitely a good method to begin that dialogue. And then furthermore, the mindset is also different, right? So for these type of, like, for example, Facebook and IG, I consider them to be personal networks, right? You're essentially on those networks because you're spending time, you're trying to get information on your friends, on personal interests, entertainment updates. But with these professional networks, such as LinkedIn, you're not spending time, but instead you are investing time. You're investing in yourself, getting more information, and then furthermore, getting more updates on specific brands that you would like to follow or learn about, and even current affairs. So whether it be the personal network or a professional network, these are all different intentions or mindsets. However, as long as you understand the intentions, as long as you understand the mindsets, then no matter if it's Facebook or LinkedIn, in this situation, obviously LinkedIn, it would be definitely something that we can consider. And then furthermore, with any business, to some extent, it is important that there is that trust. Whether it be to your end user consumer or whether it be to another business, trust is the number one priority for any business transaction. And then furthermore, LinkedIn, it is a study done by a media out in the US, Business Insider. LinkedIn is the undisputed most trusted platform versus the other social media. And so now that we've sort of gotten the social selling out of the way, let's dive in and let's look at what are some of the top reasons why, let's say, an e-commerce brand should be on LinkedIn? Okay, so we're going to look at specific examples. And if you are currently, let's say, an e-commerce brand, you can literally follow through the steps that I'm going to be telling you. And then within a certain amount of time, you will be able to see some results complementing, let's say, the efforts that you are currently doing, let's say, on Facebook or on other social media. So what are the 4 reasons? First is the brand storytelling. With any e-commerce, especially ones that have its own brand, it is important that we can effectively tell our story, tell our brand story in different formats. And in this situation with LinkedIn, we have to think about what are some of the formats that LinkedIn utilizes, and then how can we leverage that? And so LinkedIn, I'm not sure if, I'm pretty sure some of you online today have used LinkedIn, but you guys understand that with LinkedIn, the 2 important constructs are first, the company page, and then second is the personal profile. So in this section, I'll be teaching you guys or sharing with you guys, how can we, for example, with company page, how can we utilize that page to help tell our brand story? Secondly, you can use LinkedIn to expand your network, people that will help move the needle, to help, whether it be ambassador of your brand to help promote your brand, or people that potentially are consumers of your product. These are all people that resides on LinkedIn. And so lead prospect, the analysis, the outreach, that is a critical component. And then thirdly, like with any social media, community is heavily emphasized. And on LinkedIn, there's many of these type of groups as well. And last, targeting audience, like I mentioned before, utilizing their sponsor ads to be able to identify or target ideal candidate profiles. So reason number 1, when we're looking at the e-commerce brand storytelling, there are 3 aspects of it that we can utilize to help tell our story. First is the company page personal profile. And then second, the backstory. And then third, the enhanced credibility. These are 3 things that you can right off the bat do to help tell your brand story. And let's look into each and every one of them. So when we are looking at the company page, it is to some extent, if you can think of it this way, hierarchically, company page sort of resides on top, and with any company, there are the employees that sort of work for these companies, right? And then so hierarchically, there is the company page, and then it's linked to, let's say, your personal profile. And then this is shown, or this is possible because in your work experience, you have listed that you work for this company. And then so automatically there is that linkage. And so from a company page perspective, it is important to see how we can optimize a company page so that our brand message is clearly being conveyed. And so for a LinkedIn company page, there are 6 key components. 1, the tagline. 2, the banner image. 3rd, the description. 4th, the post strategy. 5th, credibility. And lastly, how do we utilize that to build that domain authority? So let's look at it. Tagline. Tagline, if you think about it, it is that one-liner, right? It is that one line that when you are, let's say, maybe engaging with a stranger or someone that you don't know, you use that one-liner to sort of get them interested on who you are or what you're doing, right? So with the business, same thing. Nike, just do it, right? It's that one-liner that sort of explains your mission, your vision, and potentially even what you're doing. Right. So in this situation, tagline shows, for example, the nature of your company. The tagline should also be concise and catchy, right? Because no one really likes to read a bunch of text nowadays. So it needs to sort of succinctly get to the point and hopefully maybe even has a ring to it. And then furthermore, visitors can identify the company from the tagline even without seeing the company's name. So just from the tagline itself, people can recognize, for example, what industry you're in, what services you're providing, and so forth. So that is the challenge in terms of creating that perfect one-liner. And so on LinkedIn, you have that opportunity to utilize the tagline as an entry point to tell your target audience the value, the belief of your company. Okay, so that's something that we can definitely, work on. And then furthermore, in some of my trainings and workshops, I actually even teach people how to write taglines with ChatGPT. There are prompts that you can design so that it can actually help you, based on your references, provide taglines that are effective, that follows these type of rules. Next, banner image. So when we are doing the our company page, it has your logo, obviously. It also has an image of a banner that shows more in detail of some of the things that you do. And so this is something that sometimes we overlook, right? Because we all heard the saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So in this situation, do you prefer to see the word dog, D-O-G, or do you actually prefer to see the dog itself in terms of a picture, right? And as humans, we are visually stimulated, not so much by the word D-O-G, dog, but we're visually stimulated because of the appearance of the dog itself. So pictures move people more than words, as we all agree. Emotional images can change people's behavior, while similarly charged words do not, right? So by adding a banner image, less of words, but more on the pictures itself, it will be more effective. And let's see some examples, right? So for example, there are 3 types of banner images that we often see, specifically for, let's say, a brand, a company page. So in this situation, if you're an e-commerce brand, you would like to, on LinkedIn, you would like to showcase. For type 1, you can show an image of your actual product to intrigue your potential buyers. That's one type. Secondly, maybe instead of your product, show an image showing the featuring the value, the vision of your company, if that's something that you would like to sort of translate to your users and customers. Or maybe let's say you have an awesome working environment that really focuses on, the team aspiration of your colleagues and so forth. For example, Apple is featuring an image of the company office or an actual working environment. These are 3 different types of banners that we usually see for company pages. So in your situation, you can definitely think about what are some of those images that can really elicit, some of that emotion, that feeling that you would like to transition it to your customers. And then next is a description. So description is essentially a write-up of what your company does. And ultimately, the objective is to get your customers there and to keep them there. And so by being able to tell that story of your company to your new visitors allows them to have a precise understanding of your company. And I always like to use the golden circle, right? So the golden circle was introduced and also made famous by Simon Sinek in one of his one of the most watched TED Talk. And what he sees or what he says is a good company story should follow the golden circle, which includes the why, the how, and the what in that sequence. So it's not about telling people what you do, but telling them why you're doing it. Why are you, let's say, why did you create this brand? Was because, is because you want to solve a pain point. But don't tell them exactly, okay, I created let's say, this specific mouse, with this specification, with this speed and so forth, because no one really cares about the specification of it. They're probably more interested in why you created this, let's say, device to help better engage users with their computers. So it's about why, and then the how is really highlighting how are you different than your other competitors, right? Most likely your product is not, the only one in the market. It is, nowadays there's really nothing new under the sun. So as consumers, I would like to know, how are you different than everyone else, right? So the why, the pain point, the how, the differentiation. Lastly, then tell me the specifications, how fast, how, the price and all that stuff. Those are the things that usually we think about placing it first. But what the golden circle tells us is, to the consumers, what they really care about is not your specifications, but it is the why and the how, and then the what. That is a sequence that you should follow. And then next, with any company page, you are responsible to communicate or update your followers or people, your consumers, of company information. So those are usually being done by post content, posts that are written. And in that sense, a lot of times marketing or social media marketing, we only think about posting stuff that are related to, let's say, events, or maybe about products, or maybe even about company. But to be more effective, we shouldn't only focus on these three topics, which is highlighted in orange, but it should be a inclusion of a diverse group of topics, including the story about your people, your employees, about innovation, about potentially the social aspect of your brand, the giving, the caring, potentially even nothing about you, but what is this industry is doing in terms of solving this problem. Your value, your visions, those are important. Even the leadership of the company, what is his or her thoughts about the product itself in terms of its engagement with, let's say, social responsibility, and then furthermore, the trend. So these are all things that we should think about when we are trying to convey our company stories through this type of post strategy planning. And of course, through these posts, you'll be able to get feedbacks from your potential customers, testimonials, once again, revalidating the pure essential message that you are trying to convey, not only by what you're saying, but also supported by the followers that are currently following you, which ultimately at the end of the day is more convincing when people see that there are testimonials, when there are feedbacks. And then lastly, I think it is about that credibility, right? As e-commerce becomes so popular, there is also the risk for consumers to buy products from merchants on e-commerce that potentially may not be legit, right? So being able to show that credibility, that transparency, I think it is important in order for any consumers to be able to make that purchase. So on LinkedIn, it is very essential. It is essential to some extent to be able to show that type of information, not only underlying, let's say, for example, the location of the company, the industry that you're in, even letting the your user or customer know, like say, the company size, when was founded, the specialty. These are all things that you are providing to provide additional transparency and as well as credibility, which is very essential when we are doing business or as an e-commerce brand online. And then furthermore, brand domain authority, right? Not only are we selling products, but we are contributing to the knowledge collection of this specific industry that we are in. So for example, on LinkedIn, there are ways where we can actually submit articles or blogs, sharing our belief and our ideas, right? restating or reiterating your domain authority in this specific industry. These are all things that's adding credibility, adding transparency, making your brand, not only are you a brand that's providing good products, but it's also a brand that people should stand by because you are one of the contributors or key contributors to this industry in general. So reason number 2, to utilize LinkedIn to expand your network. And so we're going to look into that, right? First, obviously, on LinkedIn, inbound opportunity awaits. As other professionals are already also on the site, you can meet these professionals. And then furthermore, for example, maybe they are a podcaster. They are also interested in stories like this. So this, in some ways, if he or she invites you to their podcast for you to share more on your brand story, your vision, and so forth, that offers opportunities for their, the listeners to maybe learn more about your product, and then becomes inbound opportunities that awaits you. Or maybe even on LinkedIn itself, provide, do events or collaboration on gifts, giveaways and contests. Those are things that also invites inbound opportunities. Identify other, let's say, potential partnerships, right? Affiliates. These are all also opportunities that can drive inbound traffic. And maybe even opportunities for you to do a guest post, to utilize, let's say, maybe, the content marketing aspect of it to let people learn more about your product and your service. So these are all opportunities that you can identify and even reach out to on LinkedIn. And then secondly, like I mentioned before, right, on LinkedIn, because of the data, it is so unique, completely different than your any other Facebook. You have these different individuals, professional as well as their educational experience information, such as their job title, their company location, their skill set, and all that stuff. These are all things that you can use to identify who are not only people that can help you with inbound opportunities, but who are people that potentially may be users of your product. And so usually when we identify these folks, we have to follow the practice of, the policy of LinkedIn. When you are trying to reach out to any individual, you have to, first off, create that invitation message. Secondly, follow up with a message. And then thirdly, of course, trying to arrange that face-to-face, online or offline meeting arrangement. And so this is what I call it, the 3-step message sequence. And so let me quickly go through this as well, right? So for the message one, the invitation message, there's no other objective other than having the person accept your invitation. That is your primary objective. Now, in order for 2 strangers or a stranger on the other end to accept your invitation, this requires some effort, right? Because, in the internet nowadays, there's a lot of things that are potentially not, who they seem to be. So we, as people that are trying to utilize LinkedIn to reach out to these folks, we need to do the research. We need to identify these folks, not only identify them, but we need to identify what are some of our commonalities. Maybe we go to the same school, something that I often use. If they go to Berkeley at Cal, I said, hey, you're also a Cal Bear, right? That is something that can quickly close the gap between 2 strangers. Or maybe we share similar interests. He is also doing a PhD on AI, and I am as well. And so that obviously closes the gap as well. Or maybe making reference to possibly attending a keynote speak that the person spoke at. That is a positive reference that can once again close the gap as well. And lastly, last but not least, if all else fails, as humans, we like to hear compliments, right? So if you compliment the other individual in terms of their insight on a specific topic, no one in their right mind will reject that, right? So as we are doing these researches, we need to do as we are doing these outreaches, we need to do the research. And that takes time, that takes efforts, but by putting in the time, you have a better chance of getting accepted, which is your ultimate objective, which is getting your invitation accepted. Message number 2. So from message number 1, they accepted your invitation. Now you want to make sure that you can continue this dialogue, right? To establish that dialogue. Because with any relationship, if there's no communication, if there's no dialogue, it's not a real relationship. So in the second message, what we really need to think about is, a couple of things. Timing is an issue, right? When we finally get the acceptance of the invitation, we don't want to wait 2 or 3 weeks, because after that, they're not gonna, they never really known you for the first time. Yeah, it's not like on Facebook where the friends that you have are friends, let's say from childhood, from grade school or whatever. They're always going to remember you, right? But in these type of situations, they did not know you at the beginning. They're probably not going to remember you 2 or 3 weeks from now. So you got to be able to revert back as quickly as possible. So timing is a key issue. Furthermore, asking the right question. Sometimes it's not about you, it's about them, right? Asking them a question so that they have an opportunity or an obligation to respond back to you, which once again opens up that dialogue, which you need so critically to create or to build that relationship. And then furthermore, provide value, right? With any relationship, if you're not providing value, then there's no way or there's no reason why the other person would want to maintain this dialogue. So providing value, meaning providing, let's say, useful content, or maybe providing information about, whatever that you are trying to, sell or whatever, but useful information that they would see value to. And lastly, I think it's really about getting a meeting, right? Because, with anything, no business can be done on social media or LinkedIn alone. It needs to be done through, whether it be a physical offline meeting or whether it be an online meeting where you can, sort of feel each other out, allow you to maybe explain a little bit more detail in terms of your product, get them excited. Those are things that is critical when we are, not only doing business online, but also doing business offline. So very similarly, here, as e-commerce brands, you need to be able to establish that relationship as well. These are folks that not only understand or have heard about why you're doing this, but potentially they would become advocates of your brand. And then furthermore, share your product's information and promote it to networks that's beyond your reach. So anyway, so with these 3 messages, the goal is to be able to connect to the people, to expand your network that will help promote your brand to another level. And as I mentioned, I shared with you before, if you're interested, one of the reasons why I like to share about LinkedIn is because I am actually one of, I use LinkedIn a lot. Spark Amplify is a company that I created, founded about 6 years ago. And as a startup founder, I also had to think about how to utilize LinkedIn to acquire customers. And so if you're interested in that, make sure to scan, to sign, to drop a message on my LinkedIn and we could get connected. And also you can see how I am actually using LinkedIn, okay, to do the exact same thing, social selling, to be able to do the brand analysis and to bring brand awareness. Okay, and then the next reason obviously is to join a community. Yeah, like I said before, I mean, there's a lot of discussion groups that's going on. And in fact, as you can see on this page, there are 4,300 e-commerce related groups already on LinkedIn that you can tap into, right? So these are groups that, whether it be groups to increase your knowledge on a specific topic, or maybe groups that potentially are interested in learning about your new product. And furthermore, the followers or the participant of these groups potentially may be buyers of your product as well, or partners of your product. So these are all things that we should really think about, right? Because these groups already exist. And if it doesn't exist, there's another option. Start a group yourself. Create a group. Collect, attract those people that you are looking for and start that group yourself and start that dialogue. And through this group, you can consistently, not only manage your group, but also at the same time promote this group to other interested individuals. And same thing, through posting, through sharing, the very same nature. Okay? And so the reason number 4 is we can utilize LinkedIn to target your specific audience. And this, to some extent, is not available in any other social media to the extent of what LinkedIn can provide. Now, like I mentioned before, right, LinkedIn's data, you can think of it as resume-like, right? Because it captures your work experience, your education, all that good information. Now, of course, those information are very good if you're looking for a job, because that's what you usually need to provide when you're looking for a job or when you're talking to an HR person. But from a lead prospect perspective, those information are just as important, especially when we are trying to look for customers or potential customers. And so with LinkedIn, you have 2 options. One, obviously, if you have big of a network, then of course, all the posts that you are posting, you will be able to reach to people that you would like to reach. But if you don't have that big of a following, then you would need to take advantage of their sponsor or ad option to still be able to target the people that you would like with the message that you would like. And so this requires the component of setting your target audience in their campaign manager and also utilizing their specific campaign manager analytics to identify if, let's say, your specific campaign is effective and if it's reaching to the audience that you would like to or not. So when we are looking at these, so-called sponsor ads, I usually like to, once again, this is almost like a golden triangle as well, right? But it's looking at these 3 aspects of it. We got to be able to, just with any ad campaigns, we need to be able to identify the right target audience. That is always critical, right? Because if you set the wrong target audience, then the people that you are engaging are never going to be the people that you are looking for, and they're never going to be the people that will buy products from you. So we have to first understand who are our target audience and then be able to effectively set that in the campaign management. Secondly, through the process of ad creation, ad optimization, doing A/B testing, we're able to create the ads that resonates with this target audience so that they will engage with your executed ads. And lastly, through the continuous analysis of the campaign, the data, you can see what's working, what is not, and then potentially optimize your campaign so that you have a better reach, you have better engagements, and then furthermore, you have better conversion rates. So in terms of TA setting, target audience setting, it's really all about segmentation. So when we're looking at targets, TA settings, there's 4 types of segmentations that we observe. One, obviously, is the demographic segmentation, which is really looking at, for example, the age, the gender, the education of people. So if you're targeting, let's say, if your product is targeting Gen Z, people that are, let's say, 18 to 25 years old, age is something that you want to consider, or maybe gender, females, or education-wise, if they have, let's say, college level or above. Those are all demographic segmentations. Secondly, geographic segmentations are focusing more on the country, the location, the language. right? If there are, let's say, specific regions that you're targeting, geographic segmentations work. Third is more of the psychographical segmentation, which is looking at potentially fictitious or virtual groups of people that's based on a similar interest or traits, things of that nature. So let's say if you're targeting people that likes hiking, it's based on their interests, right? So that's what we call psychographic segmentation. And then lastly is sort of the behavioral segmentation when we're looking at possibly retargeting people that have encountered or engaged with our ads before. So these are all different segmentations that we usually commonly see. And then furthermore, from campaign analytics, we can look at demographic and performance. So with LinkedIn, you can see that we can, based on the analysis, we can look at what are some of the job functions or job titles or the companies that have engaged with our ads. We can also look at, let's say, the job seniority. You know, do people, you know, are they, let's say, very senior in terms of their, you know, their company position, the location, the country, the, you know, the county even per se. So those are all things that, from a demographic perspective, we can take a look at. And then, of course, from a performance perspective, we can look at, you know, the impression counts, the average click-through rate, cost per click, cost per impression. Those are all CPMs. Those are all things that you usually see with ad placement. So that concludes with LinkedIn in general, from outreach, from what we talked about, you know, in terms of making an impression with your company profile, and also in terms of utilizing the ads to be able to engage with the people that you would like to engage. Okay, and then so hopefully, aside from, let's say, Facebook or Instagram that you're currently are already using to promote your e-commerce brand, I would suggest after today's lecture or discussion, also think about utilize LinkedIn to portray another side or maybe another perspective of your brand to a different group of more professional individuals, because ultimately, whether they're professional individuals or not, they're always also a consumer of products in the marketplace. Okay, so we have about what, seven to 10 minutes, and I just want to, once again, I definitely want to spend some time just to share with you guys, you know, this case study, which I called it, you know, the Eswatini on the road to e-commerce success. And like I said, last year, September 7th, I was standing on that stage, and I was, you know, it was a great experience. First time in Africa, in the continental Africa. And then through those sessions, I was able to engage with many talented individuals. You know, from the Q&A session, I remember that was a long Q&A session. Everyone had a lot of questions, and then we had a lot of, you know, dialogue. And then furthermore, I even remember I was invited to you know, to do a podcast with one of the radio stations as well. So it was, honestly, it was a memorable experience. But what really stood out was, you know, at the end of my talk, there were these two individuals, these two talented, bright individuals came up to me, Suthu and Mulu, and they, you know, they sort of was, you know, they told me about their background. Suthu actually studied in Taiwan as well at Minchuan University, and Mulu actually studied at Ukraine, and also a, you know, a fantastic digital marketer. And so they were telling me about their passion and what they were hoping to do, which it started out with an idea, right? So they have this company called, or they, you know, was thinking about creating this company called Customer Connect. And the goal was to empower local businesses and elevate communities. And of course, the goal was to be able to create robust ecosystems where local vendors can flourish in the digital economy, which essentially it is e-commerce and data analysis. Okay, and then so me as, you know, as a digital marketer myself, plus, you know, a data buff. I love data. I've always loved data. So, their, they coming back, up to me was definitely something that I wanted to continue that dialogue. So what happened was after, we met afterwards, we had countless meetings online. Okay. They were at Eswatini and I was in Taipei. Like we had meetings maybe like every 2 weeks, I think. And they've been, they were sharing with me about their projects on Customer Connect. And then furthermore, we had a lot of discussions about e-commerce and how it would be applicable to Eswatini. Suthu actually, when he was studying here in Taiwan, his thesis was actually writing about e-commerce in Eswatini as well. So I actually learned a lot from his thesis as well about some of the landscapes and some of the challenges that Eswatini is currently facing in terms of rolling something that out. And so after that countless talk, I definitely wanted to see that if there's any way where I can help, sort of help them reach that, that process or, that goal of e-commerce success at Eswatini. And so we had many, many discussions. And one of the discussions that we had was, or one of the challenges that Eswatini currently face in terms of e-commerce is really about the logistics. Of course, infrastructure, there's still plenty of room to improve. And then also at the same time, we were trying to leverage, or, Suthu was also trying to leverage, his experience when he was here in Taiwan. And one of the things that we had, something very common was we identify, a Taiwan e-commerce success relied heavily on its convenience store density. So I'm not sure if you guys know, but Taiwan has, to some extent, per capita, the most convenience stores in the world. Okay, so Taiwan has about 13,000 convenience stores, one per every 1,700 people. And these convenience stores, they not only sell products, but they actually act as a drop-off points for e-commerce logistics. Okay, and so that makes the e-commerce process becomes feasible versus having to ship, to, their home location, but people can actually go and pick up these shipments at their nearest convenience store. So when we were talking about this, we were really looking at how can we potentially translate, that success, in Taiwan to Eswatini. And so Suthu and Mulu, we sort of went through that discussion and we noticed that, hey, can we possibly utilize petrol stations as an option? And of course, Eswatini, there are petrol stations along the roads and so forth. And so that was something that we started the discussion. And then furthermore, the team, they actually went out and did, discussions, meetings, get feedbacks, and also provided its potential feasibility. And so what we've, based on these past 12 months of discussion and then furthermore actually executing, we've identified that, for Eswatini, the e-commerce success really relies on these three aspects. Obviously, to be able to recruit quality and, the right merchants, which is essentially the sellers, being able to identify drop-off points to facilitate, consumer or buyer product pickup, which we've identified as a possible solution in terms of, in the petrol stations. And lastly is the role that the logistics or the delivery carrier would play, which once again, we've also, sort of had many, many discussions on some of those stakeholders as well, which when they looked at this, saw an opportunity to increase their efforts in terms of shipment counts. So at the end, it was a win-win situation where the petrol stations, they were able to increase, let's say, provide increased foot traffic to their stations. So not just for getting gas, but also other opportunities for purchase in the station itself. And then, of course, the merchants also saw this as opportunities, like I mentioned before, to be able to sell outside of their near clear vicinity to be able to sell at a broader reach of other areas in Eswatini. And so let's see it in action. Okay, so I'm just gonna use quickly a minute to go through this. So current right now, the team, we have this site that we created, which essentially has each of the merchants, their basic information, and then furthermore their product offering, and then also at the same time to offer convenience. We've identified petrol stations along the way where allowing users to be able to identify the petrol stations that's nearest to their residence for pickup. And then lastly, I think it is one of the key aspects of why anyone prefers e-commerce over the retail aspect of it is because of the transparency that it provides. So allowing the user or the customer to be able to track along the way from order placement to shipping to even for pickup. That type of transparency, it is not only critical, but also a basic essential for any e-commerce business, which from a consumer perspective is essential for that transparency. And furthermore, not only have we connected the dots, but also have signed up many merchants that's currently already on site. And these are all things that currently in the works. And so I'm not sure, I think they're also online today, but I just want to say, it's been a great opportunity to work with the talents in Eswatini, but also at the same time, if I know we have a lot of people online today. So whether if you are a product seller, buyer, if you're a petrol station operator, a shipping carrier, even if you are just a tech investor or just someone that shares that same passion in terms of improving the digital commerce in Eswatini, for more information, make sure to scan this QR code and leave your contact. And Suthu and Mulu will definitely reach out to you guys for more information and possibly together create that success of e-commerce in Eswatini. Okay, so that's pretty much the conclusion of my presentation today. And I just want to say, the key takeaways: social selling is definitely something that's here to stay. Leverage LinkedIn for e-commerce success. Definitely LinkedIn is something that potentially we don't think about as a first priority, but definitely don't, forget LinkedIn. Traction channel, optimize and more optimize. And of course, I think the key to e-commerce success is not only just online, and there's also the offline portion. Lastly, 2 more slides, I promise. So these are, at Spark Amplify, these are some of our Taiwan success stories across over 15 industries, including AI business solutions. And as with AI, I always say it is like a bullet train. Trains, as you know, it doesn't stop unless it needs to. And so with AI, it's in the same situation. Don't try to stop the train, but try to ride the train and take advantage of it, and ultimately coexist with it. That is my last sign off. And then of course, same thing. If you would like to get my presentation for the second session, once again, please scan this QR code and we'll ship it out to you. And then if you need more case studies, we can get that to you as well. Okay, thank you. I think we ran a little bit like 3 minutes overboard, but same thing. This is my contact information, my LinkedIn, any information or any questions, I would love to be able to answer here. Okay, Nicholas.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So for this session, for the QA, I'll be leaving to Luyanza. So Luyanza, go ahead.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, Lulu.
Thank you, Nicholas. So I just wanted to take the opportunity firstly to thank you so much. Hi. To thank you so much, Mr. Lee, for the presentation. I imagine that you must need a glass of water, maybe even 2 right now after speaking for so long. But we really appreciate your time, and we appreciate all the knowledge and the expertise that you have imparted with us. As you mentioned, you were here last year, physically, unfortunately, it couldn't be that way this year, but I think it's still great because through our digital transformation that we're currently going through as a country, we're able to still connect and meet each other online. I wanted to also just appreciate the two gentlemen who you've mentioned in your presentation, who have also made time to join us during the seminar. That is Sutu and Mlungisi, I believe it is, right? Yes. I just wanted to welcome you guys, and I wonder if there's anything that you would like to share with Emaswati. I think the best thing about the both of you guys is that you have a perspective coming from an international one and also locally. And I think one thing that is obvious is that currently e-commerce in the country is quite low, and I like that Mr. Chien Lee talked about the fact that we kind of have to adopt it towards a Swazi narrative, so meaning that we have some challenges. So maybe can you speak a little bit about what it is clearly that Customer Connect does? I see there's beef. Are you trying to deliver beef across the nation, and are you delivering to customers as a B2B? And also, what are the challenges? Have you started operating as well, so that if you have, then maybe that could be the first touch of e-commerce that some of us have?
Okay, I can see someone is raising his hand. So
Hey, Nicholas, you want to turn on their mic?
okay, let me turn off on. Okay, so everyone now is allowed to open the mic.
All right. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone.
Hello, hi, Sutu.
I want to
Hi.
say thank you, Mr. Lee, for your time. Thank you for giving us this platform to broadly express ourselves and show Emaswati what we do. Customer Connect is an e-commerce venture that is potentially going to bring merchants and customers together and conveniently. Our whole value chain is to give customers the appreciation of their time to be able to get the products that they need that are even out of reach from them. To answer your question, firstly, we are focused on doing a B2C format where we just help SMEs gather their food traction, gather their brand visibility, and get themselves out there. And then also in the same time, we want to educate Emaswati about the value that e-commerce brings into their life. For example, not everyone will get the chance to be in Taiwan or be overseas. So our goal for coming back is to bring or leverage that experience that we had and to give that to Emaswati because they deserve that too. So Customer Connect is that bridge to connect merchants and customers together. And also we are very long-sighted. We are hoping in one point in time that we do have Taiwan have their products introduced to Emaswati and have Emaswati's products introduced to Taiwan. But of course,
Amen. I love that, Sutu.
So of course, baby steps, one day at a time. And our focus as of right now is to help the SMEs in Eswatini to showcase what they can provide, how petrol stations run more of what they offer, which is the groceries inside the kiosk, besides the petrol station, and also give logistic companies that are starting up the opportunity to connect with us and to grow themselves by offering the services to SMEs. So this is a whole value chain to help every different stakeholder.
So that sounds to me like you're trying to create a Swazi Amazon, because you're saying that you'll be recruiting different merchants. Actually, yes, I did see the logos, and you have some that have signed up to your program. That's a really good initiative. I think I would like to also give the floor to Mr. Lungelo D, who has his hand up currently.
Yep, please.
Lungelo Dlamini, you can speak.
Hello.
Go ahead,
Lungelo,
go
can
ahead.
you hear us?
Yes, yes.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much once more. The presentation is very good. Luyanza, thank you so much. Mlungisi, Sutu, you guys are amazing. This is actually wonderful. It's the first time for me hearing about it, and I kind of really see where you guys are going and what you want to do with it. We at Schools Online, because what we are doing as well, we're just trying to put AI into the schools, an assistant for every teacher. So I'm kind of looking at an opportunity somewhere, somehow, because we need to actually educate the people exactly what this is all about. Because in Eswatini, largely much more, there is still that misinformation about the internet and the Internet of Things inside the internet. So there is really much more needs to be done, particularly in the level of education. And what needs to actually be done there is particularly with the young people and the culture with regards to that. So I appreciate what you are doing. And I know an opportunity for us as a foundation to actually work with you in terms of really bringing it at a broader perspective, particularly with regards to education and what really is all about to the general masses. So I really think that what you're doing is kind of really great. And I'm looking forward as well to actually meeting up with you and then discussing things further.
No, we definitely are very open to giving the right information. And as I said before, leveraging the experience that we had and the privilege to go overseas and to see that firsthand and to actually not just see it, but use it. I feel like it's very important for us to give Emaswati that information from a firsthand user experience.
And Suthu, can I share to them that, once again, because he's such, yeah, we had a great conversation this past year. And in fact, he was able to leverage a lot of his, his past experiences here in Taiwan and he, through his learning and so forth. In fact, he's actually planning to come back again and, apply for master's here in Taiwan, which I think it would be awesome. I think this would, once again, bring a closer bond between the two countries, and then furthermore allow the exchange of information and knowledge, and then hopefully provide the goods, the positive to the citizens.
Yeah, I just wanted to also add a little bit that I found it quite interesting that within your case study as well, with Customer Connect, you identified petrol stations in Eswatini as the most convenient place for pickups. I guess that comes from the Taiwanese background as well, knowing the whole ecosystem that exists with e-commerce and convenience stores. They kind of go in partnership. And the reason I find it interesting is because we as EPA as well are currently we're currently in a process of revamping our websites, which was initially designed to be an e-commerce platform, but because of the limitations that you mentioned and that exist in the country, it ended up not being used to its full potential. And so we're currently in the stages of revamping it. And petrol stations is actually one of the pickup spots that we identified too, because they are everywhere. We have petrol stations, we've got churches everywhere. So maybe that's another one we can look at too. Petrol stations, churches, and the other thing. But I think it is a viable way. Even churches probably even more actually, now that I think about it, because even in rural areas, for example, so that means that churches can serve as a good place. I mean, e-commerce can also make its way into rural areas if we use churches, and that's more revenue for them as well, for all the work that they need to do. So we can share that idea, Sutu. Yeah. All right. I don't know if anybody else would like to ask questions. Both Sutu, who are fellow Swazis, are here and available to connect, I believe, right? when you're connecting customers. So
Yes.
you definitely want to connect. Please feel
No, it's not us. No.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Nicholas,
anyone?
do you see any questions?
Okay, I just see a few more questions here on the chat box here. So I do see someone here asking about, can you address the technology gap between Eswatini and the digital selling platforms? Because it is not mobile money, they're not budging.
Yeah.
Sorry, can they repeat that again?
I see. Okay, the question is, how are you planning to address the technological gap between Eswatini and these digital selling platforms?
It's not mobile money, they're not budget. Okay, so for us, that's why it's very important to answer this question. That's why it's very important to have the different stakeholders in play. For example, the petrol station and us as a platform, we are going to be able to make sure that we have an integration of such things like our pockets that we have, like e-wallets, Unayo, Mobi, the Mobi money. And I feel like using those aspects will make things a bit faster. Yes, there's a little bit of charges, but I feel like with the conveniency of getting those payments that will reflect very fast, will cover the technical gap that we currently have in terms of integration that we would normally use overseas. So right now, it's just all about using what we have around us and what's available, of which we have all maybe had some experience on already that could fit in perfectly to our system.
Yeah, and let me just add to what Sudhir just said. I think, just based on my experience, obviously, I've spent a huge amount of time in the US, in America, also here in Asia, and of course, last year in spending a couple of days at Eswatini. Yeah, I do see that there are some differences. Of course, I think like what Sudhir said, I mean, payment gateway, payment-wise is definitely a big challenge, is a big hurdle. And of course, I think ultimately, I think at the heart and soul of e-commerce, I think it is still getting back to what I was just mentioning in my slides, right? I think it's about the transparency, it's about that convenience, and all these kind of stuff. It doesn't change wherever, it doesn't matter where you are. As consumers, we always want to have transparency. We would like to know where our, the goods are, right? That is the nature of consumers or buying. In terms of convenience, same thing. And then we really need to look at it from these three types of stakeholders. I mean, these three stakeholders, it exists in any region, right? There's always the play of the merchants. There's always the importance of the delivery, right? So I think there are differences, but there's still, at the same time, there's a lot of common things that essentially you see across the board, right? So I think at the end of the day, I think e-commerce in itself, like I mentioned before, with the numbers, with the trends and all that stuff, it is here to stay. It is just that we will need to, at different regions, at different locations, at different countries, we need to identify what are some of the bottlenecks, the challenges, and then possibly make the necessary customization and changes to still be able to fit it into that overall structure that you see that's common. So, so that's my feeling behind it. Yep. Okay. Any other questions, Nicholas? Yeah, I don't want to run.
I see a question. So there's been a discussion here in the chat. So someone is telling about cyber hacks. So someone is saying, are there any means of security to protect LinkedIn users' finances, because cybercrime is very serious?
Yeah. Okay. So this question is asking about LinkedIn, or is it on e-commerce?
It's saying LinkedIn.
Okay. Well, if it's LinkedIn, I just want to say, I think, well, first of all, I think social media in general, I think there exist, things that are not legitimate, right? Yeah, we know it happens. We see it in Facebook, we see it in IG, we see it in other social media. But I think I think I mentioned it in my slides, right? I think in terms of all the social media, LinkedIn, to some extent, the trustworthiness is still a little bit higher than your other competing product, because at the end of the day, I think just the nature of the information that's presented is more about the education and the work experience. Of course, if someone, sets out trying to, fake their way through, they're probably going to still come up with fake background information, right? But ultimately, if this person has a network of friends, then hopefully, or industry networks, things will, sort of come to fruition, I guess. So I think I just want to answer that question. I think, in terms of the hacks, those kind of stuff, it always going to exist. But I think as users, we just need to be diligent, and we just need to be mindful of situations like this, and then make sure that we do the necessary research. And, of course, LinkedIn is just one source, right? So for example, when I'm doing meetings with my customers, I always like to look at their LinkedIn profiles, but also at the same time, LinkedIn is not the only thing. I also might look at their websites. I also look at potentially other areas, Google search, right? So I think ultimately it's about a collaboration or the usage of the information that's so readily available right now. Yeah, you can even ask ChatGPT if you need to. So I think it is, we just need to be, be mindful in the common sense, and then be aware of these type of things. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So do we have any more questions here? So I don't see any more questions. So okay, let me see. Yeah, I guess we are done. Don't see too many too obvious questions.
Okay.
Thank you everyone for the meeting and for the seminar.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Hopefully we'll see you guys next year.
Yes, hopefully in person again, this time again. Before we go, can I just send a reminder to everyone that we still have more EITF seminars. This was the first one, and thank you all guys so much for coming. But we have more coming up starting from the 2nd of September, but those will be physical, so they will be here at Mavuso Exhibition Center. And also we will be bringing more courses to you guys, particularly with relation to trade and accessing data in relation to trade. Those are the ITC, from the ITC Academy, that being the International Trade Center. So please do keep tabs with us on our social media. We have a lot coming for everyone. This is for the tech people, but we have some for the trade people too.
Great.
Thank you all so much.
Good job, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone.
See you guys soon.
Bye-bye.
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 Bye-bye. Bye-bye.